Hello, everyone. Driving for rideshare is mentally harder than people think. Now, as you all know, that I once did an abundance of rides for rideshare, and every day was a good day. But the reason it took a toll on me in a positive way is because during the week I can have up to X amount of rides. Let's just use the number 80 rides, and that's a lot of reflecting that's being done. You know, I would reflect on the things that I was currently doing at the time, the plan that I was executing, what I can do to execute the plan. Then I was thinking about the solutions that I came up with for all the problems that I was having. And then when you juxtapose that with each individual passenger that you have in the back of your vehicle, it's always interesting because you all could chime in too, those that do ride share in any capacity. Every time someone gets inside your vehicle, it's a different person, which is different energy, different behavior, a different feel. Now, as a driver, you may not really pay too much attention to that because your main focus is on getting him or her to where they need to be or a party where they need to be. So you're not really too focused on that. But once the passenger gets out of your vehicle, and then you may drive to another location to pick up another passenger, or you can pause the app, go take a break, run an errand. Either way it goes, you're going to reflect on everything in its totality, and you will also do it individually. Now, as you all know, those out there that currently are doing ride sharing, that when you have a person in your vehicle, by the conclusion of the ride, they could have shared some information with you that was negative. They could have shared some information with you that left an impact on you to where you're choosing the right framing for yourself, and how if you continue to execute your goals or your plan, how you can be far, far from their situation, right? Or depending on the passenger and what they shared with you, if you continue to work on your goals and execute your plan, you can be to where that passenger is in the same stratosphere. And I say that like you're not comparing it, but you're just expanding your mind in a positive way. So this is the thing. All the negative experiences you have with the passengers, and when I say negative experiences, I don't mean from necessarily their behavior, because that just is not where it is, because most passengers that get into your vehicle, if they don't have a mental illness, and even those with mental illnesses, they just trying to get to where they need to go. In turn, they just ride. They're not really trying to cause mayhem or conflict or anything of that nature. But for those that want to talk to you or that you converse with, you can learn a lot about them that can leave an impact on you mentally, especially once you understand and it's reiterated that everyone is trying to get themselves out of that hole. Everyone. And that's not necessarily a negative thing. That just means that you, as the driver, you're realizing that, hey, this passenger is dealing with something. And while they're in your car, or as you stop at that light, or as you go around that curve on the highway, you think, hey, in this sense, we're all the same. And that mentally takes an impact on the driver in a good way, and depending on the driver, it can be it could be a bad in a bad way, because this is the thing: getting out of that hole as a rideshare driver, It's a process. And since you understand the process, just as you understand what the passenger may have shared with you or may not have shared with you due to their silence, or may have shared with you due to his or her body language, you understand that, hey, everyone is trying to get out of that hole. And this is the thing, depending on the passenger and depending on what they share with you, they just want to like take a break in the hole, right? They're not giving up. They're not waiting on someone else to come pull the rope and get them out of the hole. And mentally, I don't know about you all, but I know when I was doing ride share, I always thought like, man, everyone has something that they're dealing with and they're trying to pull themselves out of it. Now it's not all one extreme. Some individuals have more assistance than others, but one of the common denominators, excuse me, is that most people put themselves into that hole. May it be from their current decisions or their decisions of the past. And as a rideshare driver, and you all can speak to me, those that, well, excuse me, as a former rideshare driver, and you all as current rideshare drivers or rideshare drivers to be, you all can tell me what you think. I mean, that just eventually takes a toll, if not on the simplistic level of just reflecting. Because we're all human, and since we're human, there are times that we believe that, well, my situation is moving slow, or my situation is terrible, right? And then it can get to the point where we start comparing our situation, which I wouldn't recommend because everyone is moving at his or her own pace. Not to mention, some people make better choices and better decisions. Not to mention, some people have assistance and take that assistance and are grateful for that assistance. And then there's individuals, just from some of the stories I heard, that had assistance, had opportunities, but ego and pride got in the way. But nonetheless, no matter what side of the aisle that a passenger is on, as the driver, you can see something constructive in it all, in it all. So, for example, let's say you've been driving for 5 hours straight, and you as a driver, you want to take a break. You forgot your lunch on this day, and let's say you go to, let's name a restaurant. Let's say you decide to go to Outback. You sit down, you give yourself an hour, you have a good meal, and you can reflect on all of the passengers you had, right? And even let's say all ten of the passengers that were in your vehicle, they all had phenomenal energy. They were all happy. They were all talking, not the whole ride, but enough of the ride for you to learn a few things about them and where they're at, and what they have going on and what their plan is for tomorrow or the weekend, depending on the day. As you have your meal at Outback, you can use that and say, wow, they're in position. You as the driver, you're mentally putting yourself in the position, you're going through the process, right? Which is a great thing. However, let's say you have, those 10 passengers, and they all have like negative situations, right? Or negative energy. Sitting down, you have your meal at Outback, and you think how, you may have been in a not completely lit space mentally, meaning that you're not in a fully dark space, but the light is kind of dim. However, you have the will to, put one foot in front of the other, pull yourself out of the hole. And as for the passengers that were negative, you know, you just realize and understand from listening to them that they will eventually pull themselves out of the hole. This is if they want to, if they're being realistic with themselves, that they, one, put themselves in the hole, and last but not least, no one is coming to get them. Now, people may help them only if they help themselves. So, yes, if this resonates with you, feel free to leave me your email address and I can send you my book after you purchase it. Miles Behind Me, memoir from a former rideshare driver. You all continue to have a good day, and I'll catch you all later. Peace.